Welcome back. Today we are jumping straight into an explainer that demystifies a piece of tech that honestly feels like pure magic the first time you use it. We're breaking down the deeply clever under-the-hood systems that power Apple AirTags. If you've ever wondered how these little trackers actually pull off what they do without breaking a sweat, well, you're in the right place. We're going to look at the exact engineering concepts that make the magic happen. Okay, let's dive into this because this is the central mystery, isn't it? You've got this tiny device, roughly the size of a quarter. It doesn't need to be charged every night. It doesn't have a cellular data plan. And yet, you can leave it in a backpack halfway across the world and track it down to a specific terminal in an airport. How on earth does it achieve so much without the typical heavy-duty tech we've come to expect from global trackers?
Part 1. The GPS tracking myth. To really understand what this device is, we first have to tackle the biggest misconception about what it isn't. A lot of people just naturally assume it's a miniature active GPS tracker, maybe with a tiny SIM card hidden inside. But active GPS requires continuous satellite links and a high-power cellular modem. Those components consume massive amounts of battery, which means they run hot, they're bulky, and honestly, they'd be dead in a matter of weeks. The AirTag has none of that. It's actually a passive Bluetooth Low Energy, or BLE beacon. By ditching the GPS and cellular chips completely, it draws an unbelievably tiny 0.3 microamps during deep sleep. That is exactly how it runs for over 12 months on just a standard, easily replaceable CR2032 coin cell battery.
So the crucial point here is 99.98%. That is the exact percentage of time the tiny Bluetooth chip inside this tracker spends completely, totally in deep sleep. It is doing absolutely nothing almost all the time. This extreme zero power design is the absolute secret to its lifespan. Let's walk through what it's actually doing in that tiny remaining fraction of a percent when it's awake. Every 0.5 to 2 seconds, the tracker wakes up for just a fraction of a millisecond. It blindly broadcasts a tiny, encrypted Bluetooth signal out into the void on BLE channels 37, 38, or 39, and then it immediately shuts back down and goes right back to sleep. That's it. That is the entire life cycle of the hardware itself. But that brings up a pretty massive question. Part 2. The global Apple mesh. If it's literally just waking up to shout into the void, how does it communicate with you when you lose your keys in a totally different city? A standard Bluetooth signal can only travel about 30 meters. So if your lost backpack is sitting in a coffee shop downtown and you're 10 miles away, a 30-meter Bluetooth signal is absolutely useless on its own. It has no way to reach satellites, it has zero Wi-Fi, but it turns out it doesn't need satellites because it has 1 billion active Apple devices acting as its eyes and ears. Yep, 1 billion. That number represents the wildly massive, crowdsourced Find My mesh network. Every single active iPhone, iPad, and Mac roaming the planet acts as a silent, anonymous sighting node. The tracker itself doesn't connect to the internet. Instead, it basically piggybacks on the internet connections of the strangers walking past it. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole system. Imagine you drop your keys in a park. You aren't anywhere near there, but a complete stranger walks by with an iPhone in their pocket. Step 1. Their phone silently detects that tiny Bluetooth broadcast from your lost tracker. Step 2. Because the tracker itself doesn't know where it is, the stranger's phone actually checks its own GPS coordinates. Step 3. The stranger's phone encrypts those coordinates and silently uploads a sighting report to Apple's iCloud servers. The stranger has absolutely no idea their device just helped locate your keys, and your tracker has no idea whose device detected it. The whole interaction is completely frictionless. Part 3. The Lake of Lockboxes. Now, if a billion strangers are constantly tracking these beacons and phones are silently uploading GPS coordinates all over the world, I know what you're thinking. Isn't this a massive, terrifying privacy violation? Well, that brings us to the cryptographic genius of the system, asymmetric cryptography. In really simple terms, when you first set up your tracker, your phone and the device generate a pair of keys. There's a public key, which is broadcasted out to the world to lock data, and a private key, which is kept strictly on your personal device to unlock that data. I absolutely love this quote from tech analyst Rene Ritchie because it perfectly visualizes the math happening behind the scenes. He says, it's like taking the letters of your name, adding the current time, shaking them together, wrapping them up in a brand new random lockbox every 15 minutes and throwing the box into a lake. The strangers walking by with their iPhones, they're essentially just fishing these random lockboxes out of the lake and delivering them to Apple's warehouse. They can't see what's inside, and frankly, Apple can't either, because neither of them holds the key.
Now, what's really interesting about this setup is how it handles the threat of malicious stalking. It intentionally does not have a static Bluetooth ID. Because think about it, if it broadcast the same ID all day, a bad actor could just set up Bluetooth scanners in a mall and track your exact movements from store to store. But instead, the tracker's internal clock triggers a brand new rotating public key every 15 minutes. It constantly changes its disguise, so to any observer or scanner, it looks like a completely different device every quarter of an hour. The broadcasts simply cannot be linked together. And all of this culminates in true end-to-end encryption. Apple is hosting the data on their servers, sure, but Apple does not know where your tracker is. When you open your Find My app, your iPhone queries iCloud, downloads those encrypted sighting reports, and then uses your exclusive private key, which is stored super safely in your iCloud keychain, to decrypt the packet and map the actual location for your eyes only.
Part 4. Precision Finding via UWB.
Let's move to the final piece of the puzzle and see how this builds out. The mesh network got you to the right coffee shop. You're exactly 10 meters away, looking under tables and behind couch cushions. But how do you find a coin-sized object completely hidden out of sight? Here, we have to transition away from standard Bluetooth. Standard Bluetooth uses RSSI, or Received Signal Strength Indicator, that essentially guesses distance based on how loud the signal is. But if your keys fall behind a really thick couch cushion, the signal gets muffled and standard Bluetooth gets totally confused. It'll tell you you're far away when you're actually right on top of it. That is why Apple uses ultra-wideband, or UWB, powered by their custom U1 and U2 chips. UWB doesn't guess based on volume. It uses high-frequency pulses for absolute physical direction down to the exact centimeter.
It pulls this off using a really cool physical concept called time of flight. The iPhone shoots out a high-frequency radio pulse across a wide spectrum. By measuring the absolute time it takes for that specific pulse to travel to the tracker and bounce back, the phone calculates the exact physical distance at the speed of light. Actually, scratch that. It's not even a calculation so much as it is moving from a guessing game to millimeter-accurate physics.
So your final search sequence looks like this. Your iPhone sends the pulse. The pulse bounces off the tracker. The iPhone measures that exact return time to get the distance. But then, it combines that distance data with your phone's internal gyroscope and accelerometer. As you move your hand around, your phone knows its exact orientation in 3D space, which allows the software to overlay a highly accurate directional arrow right on your screen. Paired with haptic vibrations that pulse faster and faster as you get closer, it acts like a literal physical compass pointing you directly to your missing item. When you step back and look at this whole ecosystem, the core takeaway is just incredible. It is extreme utility powered entirely by extreme privacy. You've got a device with a zero-power design sleeping 99% of the time, combined with a massive 1 billion device mesh network of strangers acting as anonymous messengers, all protected by constantly rotating asymmetric cryptography. It really makes you think, doesn't it? We're using this to find lost keys and luggage today, but if a billion strangers can seamlessly and anonymously locate a tiny battery-powered coin without compromising anyone's privacy, what other everyday objects could a hyper-private, zero-power mesh network transform next? Keep that question in mind the next time you hear that little chime from your backpack. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.